have my car behind me. It's a 1955 Cadillac Coupe, and I thought it would be fun to show it to you. And I do have a point to make in this video. It's not just about me showing off my car, or else I wouldn't bother. And I will make my point at the end of the video, but for now, let's just take a look at the Cadillac. This car was a father-daughter project. My dad and I worked on it together, which basically means he knew what he was doing and would tell me what to do, and I would do what he told me to do. We both learned a lot throughout the project. It took us about 4 years to finish it. It was a frame-up restoration, and it's not restored to its original condition like it was when it was built. It has been modified. However, the exterior looks mostly stock. The main modifications are its motor and transmission. It now has rack and pinion steering, an aftermarket push-button shifter, aftermarket heating and air conditioning, and some cosmetic modifications. It was my dad's car. He purchased it in the 1980s, and as a project car, it was in pretty good shape. It was fairly rust-free, and all the parts were there. One of the problems it had was the engine block was cracked. Also, there was significant damage to the passenger side door because it had been hit by another car. It was almost too damaged to repair, but in the end, it was repaired successfully. The body color is called Pacific Coral. It was the original color of this car. It was a color Cadillac offered only in 1955. The roof color is called White Diamond. It is a pearl paint, and it is also a Cadillac color, but it came out in the 2000s, I think. I may be wrong about that, but in any case, it is a more modern Cadillac paint color. My dad painted the car. He did a wonderful job. It was the third car he's ever painted. As I said, we both learned quite a lot throughout the project. Like, we learned this roof color is a 3-stage paint. So after primer, a base color goes on after that. And in this case, it was sort of an off-white, and then the pearl goes on top of that, and then the clear coat. It's a beautiful color, but in my opinion, it's not as easy to work with as something like the body color, because like after primer, it's just that one color, and then the clear coat on top of that. I'm going to go ahead and show you the trunk. I already have it open. I'm just going to lift it up here. So this isn't how the trunk looked originally. My dad made this trunk light in the shape of a V, which is a play on the Cadillac V that you can see on the hood and the trunk lid. It's made out of clear acrylic and is lit from behind. The carpet here in the trunk and throughout the interior is wool. I don't know if the carpet is showing well on camera, but it has a warm color tone to it. At first we were looking for carpet that was coral colored to go with the coral paint color of the body, but in the end I'm happy we didn't go with coral colored carpet. I think this color suits the color scheme of the car much better. And we can move around to the front here, and I will open the hood for you, but I need two hands to do that, so just a minute. Like I mentioned earlier, this motor is not original to the car or to a 1955 Cadillac. It is a 350 Vortec, and it's fuel injected. It came out of a 1997 pickup truck that had been wrecked. It had low miles on it, so this motor was salvaged. The transmission is a 4L60E. It was my idea to paint the valve covers and the block the same color as the body of the car. I had seen other people do that to their classic cars, and I really liked that. So, and we put this Cadillac emblem on this part of the air intake up there, just because we thought it would look nice. Originally it said Vortec on there. The grill is stainless steel. My dad polished each piece, and some other trim on the car is stainless steel too, and the hubcaps are stainless steel. They have all been polished, and the firewall has been smoothed out. It used to have these bulky areas on it that had to do with the heating system. The heating system has been changed, so they were not necessary anymore, and we liked the look of a smooth firewall. And moving around to the interior, so originally the seats were covered with wool fabric, 2 shades of wool fabric, and we followed the original design of the seats and the door panels, but with different colors and materials. This car is a coupe as opposed to the Coupe de Ville, and one difference between the two is that the Coupe de Ville had a little bit fancier interior, like the door panels were designed differently on a Coupe de Ville, and I believe either some of the Coupe de Villes or maybe all of them had power windows. Another difference is the Coupe de Ville had these, I believe, chrome trim on the headliner. So here in the coupe you can see these stitch lines, and in the Coupe de Ville, instead of these lines of stitching, there would be these chrome trim pieces going from one side of the roof to the other, all along these stitch lines. Another difference between the coupe and the Coupe de Ville is this little gutter along the roof here. Goes all the way down to the end of the gutter right there. So on the coupe it's painted like this, and on the Coupe de Ville I believe it was stainless steel all along the edge of the roof. Personally, I like this detail painted because it blends into the roof nicely and is not very noticeable. This down here is the aftermarket push button shifter. Originally the car had a column shifter, and now the car has digital gauges. It was not originally like that. I really like how the interior turned out. I remember praying and asking the Lord to help us make the right choices for the interior, because I've seen a lot of classic cars, and in my opinion, the car can be absolutely beautiful, and then I look at the interior and something just doesn't feel right. A lot of times it just doesn't seem to suit the car, and it doesn't go with the car, and I didn't want that to happen with our project. So I asked for the Lord's help with that, and I really believe He did help us make good choices for the interior. If you ever want something designed right, I think it's good to ask for the Lord's help. He's the best designer, and I think it is obvious He enjoys designing things. this is where the Cadillac typically lives. We don't take it out very often. When we do, it's usually in the summertime, and especially last year. The craziness of last year, there weren't very many car shows at all, but this year they're starting up again, and that's one thing we do with the cars, take it to car shows. And I don't know how many we've been to, but it has won an award at every one we've taken it to. There's one up here that I want to show you. It's probably the most special one to me. This one here, it was the first car show that we ever took the Cadillac to, fresh after its restoration, and it won Best of Show. So that was a surprise, a pleasant surprise. So that's the most memorable one to me. And then this one over here, this award was from the second show we ever took it to in Edmonds, Washington. There were a lot of cars at that show, and it won Best of Show again. And there are other awards too. This one over here is kind of cool because someone made it. These three plaques right here were all from the same show. It was in Canada, and we took the car on the ferry that goes from Port Angeles to Victoria, and from there we went to that car show. That's the only car show we've been to that was in another country. Up on the wall here, it was in the Cadillac Club's magazine and in their calendar. And over there are just some paintings I've done of cars. That is my dad's car, one of his cars. It's a 1951 Hudson Hornet. And we have fun going to car shows together, and we get to park next to each other and make a good day of it. And this was a scrapbook I put together of the project, the whole restoration process. And it's been some years since we restored the car, so it's sort of interesting to look back on what we actually did. It's sort of easy to forget. Like, when I was showing you the car, I told you a little bit about it, but there's so much that I could really go into. And even now I'm sort of trying to keep this fairly brief, but it was just a lot of work. here, like I said, we smoothed out the firewall. That's sort of what it looked like before. And then cutting out a piece of metal to fit, primer, and paint. This is where I repainted the center emblems for the hubcaps. So that's a little bit about my car, and I hope you enjoyed taking a look at it and learning a bit about it. And it's such a nice day that I want to take it for a drive. It doesn't get driven that often, like I said, and that's probably the most fun I have with it. That's more fun to me than taking it to car shows or obviously letting it sit in the garage. So I'm going to take it for a drive, and I'll take you along. You know what? Right now, this car has an outside of the fuel tank fuel pump, and it's a little bit noisy. I think a good change would be to get a fuel pump that goes inside the fuel tank. That way it'll be quieter.
Que fuimos tan sinceros que desde que nos vimos amándonos estamos. a quererte con el alma y hoy me mata de tristeza tu actitud. ¿Y a qué te motiva entonces tu abandono? ¿Y en qué ruta tu promesa se perdió? Y si dices la verdad, yo te perdono.
I made it down to the Port Townsend waterfront. Such a nice day outside, and there's the ferry right there. Okay, I have a quick car show story. So, I was on my way to a car show in the morning. The car the night before had been cleaned. We were ready for the show. And usually when you get to a car show location, there's someone there to greet you and kind of let you know where to park maybe, or let you know where you need to go to register. And so I pulled up to this car show location, and this guy came over to my driver's side door to, I assume, let me know where to park, which he did, and where to register, which he did. And after giving me that information, he smacked my car with his hand. And I don't know what the point of that was, other than it seemed like an equivalent of, okay, you're good to go, and then a smack on my car with his hand. And I don't really like it if a person smacks anything that's mine, but probably especially my car. I know that some people at car shows don't like people touching their car at all, and will have signs saying so on their car. I don't mind if someone touches my car, but I don't like someone to smack my car. Anyways, so he smacked my car, and it wasn't the sound of a hand smacking metal. It was the sound of metal smacking metal. And what it was he was wearing a ring. And so the ring hit my car and chipped the paint. That was memorable to me. And that was an awful car show. I mean, it started that way. That's how it started. And then later, after I had parked, someone came and parked next to me. And not to say bad things about old drivers, but this was an old man, and he was backing into the spot next to me. And if it wasn't for this other guy that was directing him to park there, stepping in the way, he would have hit my car. You know, it's just not the type of stuff you want to have to deal with really ever, but especially when you went to a car show to have a good time with your special car. So yeah, that was an awful car show. It could have been worse. The guy that smacked my car is not alive anymore.
Bastaría con abrazarte y conversar. Tanta vida yo te di que por fuerza quieres ya sabor a mí. No pretendo, soy lo bueno, soy dile que me muero de tanto esperar. Que vuelva ya, que las bromas no son buenas.
So I'm going to go ahead and close this video with the point that I wanted to make from the start, and that is that there are beautiful and valuable material things in this world. Some of them are very esteemed and desirable, and I don't mean that we shouldn't enjoy them. I think we should. Please do enjoy them, but my point is, even more valuable than things are people. There is a value in a human soul, a human life, that these lifeless objects really just can't compare to. I suppose at times it's hard to value people, especially if they have hurt you. Sometimes you have to try to love people despite how they can be, and not because of how they may be. And when I say that, I feel like I'm preaching to myself more than anyone else, because it is a challenge to love people and to value them. Nevertheless, all these material things in the world will pass away. A person will spend eternity somewhere. I want to keep things in the right perspective. I want to share God's perspectives and His values. I want to value what He values, and I know He values people far more than things. He loves people very dearly. Sometimes I think about how cherished this car is to me, and then I think about how God loves and cherishes me more than that. And the work and care put into the restoration of this car is not unlike the work God does and desires to do in His people. I wanted to make the point that the value of a person is far above material objects, and I want to make that point further by reading a chapter from my book. It is a short chapter called Ever So Precious. If you want to learn more about my book, I will have some information about it in the description, but I will go ahead now and read the chapter. So it's chapter 7 out of my book. The title of the chapter is Ever So Precious. They were taking pictures of the Cadillac. Sometimes they stood next to it or sat in the driver's seat. Someone suggested that he get in the picture too, but he said, "No, I would look like garbage next to that car." The words struck me. What are all the cars in the world compared to you? Compared to a person? Compared to a soul? How can a person ever be compared to a material thing? The worth of a person is beyond my comprehension. I really do not know how invaluable a person is. I don't think I'm able to know. I am aware that it may have only been a hasty word spoken without a second thought, but whatever is in the heart overflows into speech. I believe the Lord taught me through this that He is grieved and hurt when people are self-deprecating and call themselves things like garbage. This is not how the Lord views them. They are ever so precious. You made all the delicate inner parts of my body and knit them together in my mother's womb. Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. It is amazing to think about. Your workmanship is marvelous, and how well I know it. God showed how much He loved us by sending His only Son into this wicked world to bring to us eternal life through His death. In this act we see what real love is. It is not our love for God, but His love for us when He sent His Son to satisfy God's anger against our sins. And what do you benefit if you gain the whole world but lose your own soul? Is anything worth more than your soul?